All right, we are finally in the good stuff. Weaponizing vulnerabilities is what we're going to be talking about today. And we're going to go through some really good resources. For example, the exploit database. If you have not seen this before, we're going to go through the NIST National Vulnerability Database. We're going to go through the Department of Defense website for the Vulnerability Disclosure Program. And of course, we're going to actually execute a vulnerability ourselves. We're going to exploit a vulnerability that we found using a tool which is called SQL map. And then from that, we're going to run some nice remote code execution hacks. So it's going to be a fun room. This is a really exciting room. I love this stuff because I love pen testing and ethical hacking. So this should be extremely fun. We're going to be talking about these specific learning objectives. I already got ahead of myself, so I already told you what's about to happen. So without further ado, let us jump into the introduction of this room. Weaponizing vulnerabilities. It is the time. We have finally arrived. Very fun title just by itself. I'm super excited about this room. And as it says, we're going to learn how a vulnerability evolves and the methods to weaponize multiple vulnerabilities, leading to remote code execution. So this is going to be a fun room. Super excited about it. Let's dive into it. All right, the goal here is to take a vulnerability in a software or a system and create an exploit for it, which then we can use to get access to the vulnerability and do a lot of malicious actions or other malicious actions. This is actually probably just going to be one type of vulnerability that we're going to exploit, or one type of exploit that we're going to create for a vulnerability. And there are many other vulnerabilities that exist, exploits that exist that can be ran at a variety of vulnerabilities, a single vulnerability, a set of vulnerabilities. There is a database of vulnerabilities. It's called the National Vulnerability Database. That is obviously as a part of NIST, the National Institute for Standards of Technology. And this is just by itself, you can learn so much about this. And CVEs is what we've already covered in a lot of different rooms. A CVE number is the common vulnerability and exploits number that's attached to various vulnerabilities that exist, and you can just go through and search for essentially any operating system or any version of an OS or anything like that, and you'll find vulnerabilities that are attached to them. That's why blue teams and security teams are constantly focused on upgrading and updating their software systems and their versions and so on and so forth. And there are teams of penetration testers and ethical hackers that are constantly attacking these systems so that they can find vulnerabilities before bad hackers, before black hat hackers do, and patch them in advance so that they stay at least one step ahead of hackers. So this is a big world just by itself. Just weaponizing vulnerabilities, exploiting vulnerabilities just by itself is the giant branch of cybersecurity. And this is where we get into offensive security and red teaming. So I love this stuff. This is my favorite part of of cybersecurity. So this is going to be a really fun one. So an exploit can be utilized in conjunction with additional exploits or vulnerabilities for the attacker to take control of a system that they are targeting. Even though a vulnerability's impact isn't as significant as another that is more difficult to access, it might still be quite simple to attack. And if the exploit is adequately implemented and managed, in that case, a low-level vulnerability can grant you access to something that can do real damage. For example, enter the network and system and further exploit and do stuff that is typically harder to access directly. So you take one step and it's a small step, but as long as it gives you a little bit of access, now you can take a bigger step that gives you even more access. So low-level vulnerabilities are still important in the eyes of cyber attackers, and all of those things should still be considered when you're patching something and when you're securing something. It's not as important as a severe vulnerability. Obviously, you want to take care of the level 9 and level 10 vulnerabilities first, but you want to take care of everything ultimately so that even the low-level ones are taken care of so that nobody can attack you at all in any capacity to give themselves higher access, so on and so forth. So another closely related room is weaponization, which I do not think, I have not done this one, so this is another really good one, and focuses on various techniques that assist the red team in building custom payloads using PSH and HTA and VBA, and none of those things I've even heard of, so I'm super excited about that. I think PSH is PowerShell, HTA is what? Oh, HTML application files, okay, fair enough. We're going to consider the defensive part as a security engineer in this room, and see how bad guys actually combine vulnerabilities to gain complete control of a system through a case study. And then we're going to focus on the core theoretical concepts necessary for a security engineer to understand how to exploit and how the exploit development cycle works. So what is an exploit? What is the vulnerability lifecycle? How do we chain multiple vulnerabilities together? And how can we automate multiple everyday tasks as security engineers? This is a really juicy room. Super excited about this one. Understanding weaponization, understanding vulnerability databases, and how to exploit vulnerabilities is prerequisites, and I haven't done any of these things. So, oh, actually, I did vulnerabilities 101, so that's good. There's probably a video of this. I'm pretty sure there's a video of this. Actually, there is, because I do recognize this image right here. So there's definitely a video on vulnerabilities 101, and I've done exploit vulnerabilities. So yeah, there's at least a few of those. This one on weaponization I haven't done, so hopefully we can still make it through through this particular room. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes, and if not, I mean, there's no option at this point. We're gonna make it to the end of this room, and then if I need to, or when I get to, I'll go ahead and record the video for the other weaponizing room, and we'll have both of them for ourselves. So let us jump into the basic explanation of an exploit. By now you should already know this, but let's talk about it a little bit more. An exploit can take various forms. So it could be an executable file that's designed for a specific endpoint, meaning a specific computer or IP address, or an IoT device. It can be delivered through a text message, an email, or even a file that is hidden inside of digital files in the macros of digital files. When the exploit is executed, an attacker can perform various actions on the target system, like controlling it remotely or even locally, disrupting functionality, stealing data, or anything else that they could allow on that system. The exploit could be either local or remote, and local basically means you're on the device itself. Remote is you're executing remotely, so that part should be fairly easy to understand. The attacker who has access to a specific computing resource can execute code locally. They may also install additional malicious code or gain remote control of the resource. And somebody who exploits a vulnerability remotely over a network or communication channel to gain control of a system uses a specific type of exploit known as a remote exploit. And that's the stuff that we're going to be talking about today. An exploit is a technical tool that may be used against any user in a standalone or connected cyber environment. And in a standalone environment, an exploit may be delivered via a removable media like a USB drive. They can be developed and financed by various actors, including nation states seeking to engage in cyber espionage or warfare, organized criminal groups looking to profit from their activities, and hackers on the dark web selling their services to the highest bidder. Additionally, some specialized actors look for weaknesses and develop exploits for them. It's critical to realize that an exploit is not a goal in and of itself. It is a method for carrying out something that's much more significant. And exploit creation is a complicated process requiring high information security expertise. As a result, it involves highly experienced individuals and continuous updates that can fetch a high price on niche or illegal markets, mainly on the dark web. And we did a small quick little video on the dark web if you want to go check that out. That's on the channel as well, and it kind of just shows you the difference between the public web, the deep web, and the dark web, and it shows you some of the previous websites that the FBI actually logged on their database, so that we actually go through some FBI news and resources that we pulled from the FBI website. And we also talk about the softwares that you can use to gain access to the dark web. So it's an introductory video. It's not really that big of a video, or that it's not that detailed of a video, but it is something if you want to kind of learn a little bit more about the dark web and go check out the FBI articles and stuff like that. I think it's pretty entertaining. It's fun to look at. So what is the term for an exploit that is used to gain control of a system remotely? That would be a remote exploit. And we are moving on. So the vulnerability lifecycle. Let's talk about this. The DoD, the Department of Defense, has implemented a vulnerability disclosure program that uses the widely recognized Lifecycle of Vulnerability framework, which is, what is this on? This is this SCIF, Lifecycle of Vulnerability, the National Security Institute. Interesting, I didn't know that this website existed. So this is another cool one. So they use the Lifecycle of Vulnerability framework to better understand how vulnerabilities can be mitigated earlier. Vulnerability Development or Disclosure Program, a VDP, a Vulnerability Disclosure Program, typically involves the triage, validation, and mitigation facilitation of a vulnerability report submitted by researchers. And the 5 stages are discovery, coordination, mitigation, management, and lessons learned. So the product is launched, vulnerabilities discovered, development of a POC, development of the patch is then released, and the patch has been applied. So the vendor in the public market launches an information technology product, so it could be hardware or software. They discover a vulnerability, and researchers working independently or sponsored by public-private organizations, ethical hackers, pen testers, whatever, they discover it. A 0-day vulnerability is something that has never been found before, so it's the first time that they found it. And when they find that, when it's found, it's made available to the general public via the internet or other special sources. And then before it's publicly disclosed, the manufacturer typically has already developed a patch for it. Obviously, if they didn't, I mean, it would cause a panic, right? It would cause a stir. So then they develop a proof of concept or exploit. So the vulnerability has been discovered. Then they develop an actual exploit or proof of concept to exploit the vulnerability. And they need to make sure that it actually is a viable vulnerability that can be hacked. So you keep the disclosure discreet because it's typically the first stage in developing an exploit, and bad actors can use it in the wild. So if you publicize the exploit and you let them know that this is what it is before having the patch, then people can actually use your own exploit against you. Patch development or update is when they actually patch it, and they actually, they develop the patch for this exploit right here, then they release the patch, and then they actually install the patch. So they release the patch for the vulnerability so customers can apply it, and the customer and user will update or patch the system. And usually, like if you have a Microsoft machine, there's updates that happen all the time, and a lot of times people don't even read what the update is about, but usually it's about something like this. There's something that has happened that they want to get ahead of, and they develop the patch for it, and they just release it on the software update. And it's important for you as the user to always have your machine updating, because you never know. You never know what vulnerability may have been discovered that there is now an exploit for, and your computer could be hacked. And if you have some sensitive data or pictures that you don't want people to see or something like that, then you definitely want to make sure that you patch your system. So a vulnerability not patched by the vendor and unknown to most people is called a 0-day, I believe. Yeah, 0-day vulnerability. What is a commonly used term for the demonstration that proves the exploitability of a newly discovered vulnerability? And that is the proof of concept. And what does a product manufacturer typically release to prevent a known vulnerability from being exploited by adversaries? And that would be a patch. And we are making some good progress here. So let's move on to opportunity for weaponizing vulnerabilities. Weaponizing vulnerabilities or creating exploits on those things is a process that obviously requires a lot of understanding of the target resource, It doesn't matter if it's software, hardware, or any other system. You just need a lot of good understanding. This is why they do reconnaissance, or we do reconnaissance a lot, or when you do a pen test or something, they give you access to all the resources that they want you to try to attack. Or if you're doing security engineering on a web application, they typically give you access to the source code and things like that, just so you have all the information that you need. And then you create an exploit that involves the steps that literally depend on that target system. Time, expertise, knowledge of the target, all that stuff is very, very important if you actually want to weaponize a vulnerability, right? It can be weaponized by locally developing an exploit or purchasing it from suppliers. So we already talked about this. And this is kind of the extra steps that you go through the vulnerability something, what was it? Vulnerability development lifecycle? Vulnerability disclosure program, the lifecycle of a vulnerability framework. I think that's basically what we were talking about. But so the vulnerability is discovered, development of the exploit, and then that goes right here. And as soon as there's an exploit discovered or developed, there's a CVE number assigned that we just talked about, which is not in the vulnerability disclosure program, but it was actually a part of the first piece right here, the National Vulnerability Database. So this is where we find all of the CVEs, right? And so you see it right here as well. It shows you the severity 8.8 high, which means you got to take care of that now. So if you're looking at your list of vulnerabilities and you see that there is only, there's these, or it might be like low level vulnerabilities. When you look at stuff like that, you want to take care of the high stuff first. Like it should be simple to understand. It should be like very common sense, but some people, I don't know, don't understand it. Some people go by the ease of the patch. Like if it's easy to fix, they'll go by that, but you need to go by the actual severity of it and how bad the damage could be, so on and so forth. So a CVE would be assigned and the patch is developed and everything up until this point. So between these 2 points, right, between these 3 points is the 0-day exploit. And then once the patch has been released and there's a CVE that's been published, now it is I guess it's called an N-day exploit, which essentially means that it's now known and it's not that big of a deal. So the N refers to the number of days elapsed since the patch was released. So if we were to look at these things right here, you see how it says 2024. These have all been released in 2024. But there are patches that we can, like if I just actually go to Google and literally type in CVE 2013, for example, you'll see a bunch of things that come up, right? CVE 2013, 2022, 3900, 2013, 2013, so on and so forth. So there's, for every year, essentially, for the years that these things were discovered and patched is what you're going to, or published, excuse me, patched and published is what you're going to see the attachment of the year to it. But prior to that publishing, it's a 0-day exploit. And companies will pay you a lot of money to discover 0-day exploits, by the way. So if you can hack Microsoft and find some kind of 0-day exploit that they're not aware of, obviously, because they would have patched it. If you can find it, that means they haven't patched it. So that means that it's probably something that they don't know about. And that is actually a really good thing. So the window of opportunity for resource exploitation depends on several factors, including availability of the update, discovery time, failure severity. The 0-day vulnerability can take a few days to several months or even years to discover. 0-day attacks are typically targeted as specific targets, and it takes a lot of time and effort to find those things. And N-day refers to when the patch is available. So we already talked about that. The data when a vulnerability has been discovered is typically unknown. However, CVE databases show the dates on the CVE ID assignments, which we already talked about as well. Adversaries with access to updated software can reverse engineer the patch to find the vulnerability according to the exploit database, which is a really cool website that we've used a lot. And this is another place that you can just go and search for different things to try to find exploits for them. So if we do Microsoft and look at that, there's so many freaking exploits that have been created. There's 141 pages of exploits that are available just on Microsoft and by a bunch of different exploit authors and so on and so forth. So the exploit database is a really big one It's a really fun one, actually. There's a lot of cool stuff in here that you can try out. Of course, responsibly. According to the database, most public exploits are created in the first week following the release of a patch to offer their clients more time to upgrade. Certain manufacturers might postpone the announcement when a CV is formally released. The public can immediately access information about it. Most security providers begin creating their vulnerability signatures and prevention strategies at this time to ensure mitigation from threat actors. So, can it take days, months, or even years to develop an exploit? Yes, it can. An exploit developed once the vendor has released the patch is called a public exploit. Or no? Actually, you know what? I think that they're looking for an end day. Yeah, end day is what it is. So an end day vulnerability or end day exploit. So now let's talk about exploit chaining. Exploit chaining or multi-stage exploitation is when you connect multiple exploits together. So you string together multiple exploits to be able to gain access or break through a vulnerability. The desired goal is to complete remote code execution chain, or at least for the exercise that we're going to be doing in a little bit. And all of it really just goes like this, right? So you do recon, which is basically you get as much information and intelligence as possible on your target, and then you develop your initial exploit to be able to gain that initial vulnerability that you can exploit, and then you kind of use that to escalate your privileges. And we've done a lot of privilege escalation rooms in the junior pen tester videos and the pen test plus videos, and you've seen that a lot. If you haven't, go check those videos out. They're really cool videos. But once you have initial exploit, and this could be literally as easy as doing some social media stalking and finding somebody's work email on their social media. And by the way, so many people still do this. Like, so many freaking people on LinkedIn put their work email on their LinkedIn profile. So this is not hard to do. And you get access to their work email, and then you use something like Hydra or John the Ripper or Cain and Abel, which is like amazing softwares for cracking passwords. And you use that email address and you freaking crack their password, and like you get access to their username, their work account, and then you're off to the races. And now you can try to find a way to escalate your privileges and get access to a higher login. Somebody, maybe that might be a manager, or somebody could be a domain admin, something like that. And then you get persistence. Persistence means you stay in the system, so you don't have to rerun this process over and over and over again. Because if they find out that you did this, if they find out that you did the initial exploit and they patch that, that means you no longer have that entrance into their network anymore. So when you do persistence, you actually stay in the system. You stay inside of their network, allow you to continue down this path that you got. And then from there, you do lateral movement, which is basically moving laterally through the system until you find something that is juicier or more informative or more sensitive, or something that basically has what you need. And then you would do remote code execution at that point to execute whatever the code is that you want to get whatever you want out of your attack vector. So if you're trying to extract data, if you're trying to crash the system, whatever it is, once you're in the machine that you want to be, once you're in the user account that you want to be, is when you execute your remote code, and voila, you have done pretty bad damage. So it's important to note that chaining exploits in tandem can be a highly effective technique, as it allows them to bypass multiple layers of security to gain access to sensitive information. Therefore, organizations must keep their systems updated and patched, and implement proper network segmentation and best security practices to minimize the risk of such attacks. So if you want to be a good security engineer, if you want to be a good security analyst, you have to think like a hacker, okay? That way you can actually do this part. Keep the systems updated, patch them, network segmentation. Like, network segmentation means break up the network into multiple segments. So if somebody gets into one part of your network, they don't get access to everything else, and you can cut them off easily. So that's very, very important. It's called containment. Technically, that's the word for getting, once you find somebody, you contain it so that the damage doesn't spread. So what is the technique called? To string together multiple exploits. And so we have what? Exploit chaining. I think that's the one that they're looking for here. So exploit, come on, chaining. After initial access to the system, the process of gaining higher access within the system is called privilege escalation. And the step in which the adversary tries to maintain long time access is called persistence. And we are making good progress. So now let's move on to chaining multiple vulnerabilities, the actual exercise here. So I'm going to start this virtual machine, and I think I have to start the attack box as well. Yeah. And we're gonna have some fun. So I will come back as soon as these things are loaded. It's gonna take a couple of minutes for them to load, and then we'll get into the exercise. Okay, here we go. Our virtual machine is up. So let's read through our little situation here. We're doing the exploit chaining to exploit a vulnerability, yada, yada, yada. We connected our machine. Here's the scenario. So Bob is a security engineer with Chat AI, and he's been tasked to exploit a web application that is at our IP address /AI. As the initial assessment, the pen testing team has done, some of the vulnerabilities in the web application are SQL injection and arbitrary file upload. The goal is to chain these things together to execute some code. The first and most crucial step is exploiting a target system is finding and using a vulnerability that provides an initial entry point. So in this case, such entry points are typically acquired through SQL injection, which further escalates arbitrary file upload, and then you can do remote execution. The easiest way to check for this is to use a special character. So for this case, for example, if we go to AI login.php, right? So, and by the way, we talk about SQL injection here, which is, I think, another room that we may have already done. Yeah, so I've already done this room, and there should be already a video on this blind SQLI, Boolean based, time based, all these things. So you should already have this video for SQL injection. If not, drop it in the comments. So if you don't find it inside the channel videos, which this is our channel, by the way. And by the way, just over the last week, we got over 1,500 new followers. This was insane. This was like, I was literally shocked as this was happening. I was like, what the hell is going on? But if you go here, I mean, I might as well do it here. So SQL injection, let's search for this. So what do we got? We got security threats, how to hack websites using OWASP top 10. This is the Splunk, threat modeling, red team tactics. I mean, there seems to be a lot. I don't know which one it is, but there seems to be a lot of videos on SQL injection. But so if you don't find this specific room, where was it? This one. If you don't find this one in the course contents, or not the course content, the channel contents, if you don't find this one that has these things, let me know and I'll record a video specifically on this thing. But please go through everything first before you drop a comment and say that you couldn't find it. Just do like a quick little view of the timestamps, because the timestamps always match the actual sections right here. So the tasks, the timestamps will actually match the tasks. Anyways, that's where you can learn more about SQL injection or any of the other videos that were there. So after doing that, we found that we got this little section that has our login page. And then the input fields ask for username and password. So if you enter test@chat.ai, and I'll just do this. I'll actually do this right now so that we can kind of go through it. But if you do test@chat.ai versus this little apostrophe at the end, this is what's known as a special character. When you do something like this, you will get a different kind of a response from the system. And so we're actually going to do it right now, just so you can see what that situation looks like. And this is what SQL injection means, right? When you can do special characters and then start putting in various types of commands and requests into the actual URL. That is what we're doing in this case. So let's go here. So this is our login page. And so I'm gonna do the second one. So we're just gonna, actually let's do the first one. So that's the username and password. And so, oh, just gives us a basic error. So now if I just put an apostrophe at the end of this and do that, undefined, okay? So it was not an error, it just says undefined. And it says, notice the special character. He discovered that the application is probably vulnerable to SQL injection and now aims to exploit this vulnerability. So the term undefined should not come up. It should just give you error again. But in this particular case, it gave us a different type of error, which is undefined, which can lead us to believe that this is potentially a vulnerable system. So now, we want to exploit it, so we're going to use SQL map, which is a command line tool to find and exploit SQL injection vulnerabilities across all the major databases, and we can learn more about SQL map here, which I have not used before. It seems to be an easy one. It's like a pretty quick room. Yeah, it is an easy room, so maybe we'll do that later. Not right now, for sure. So it requires an endpoint. So SQL map requires an endpoint to exploit the injection vulnerability. And the way that we can do this is how scary this can be sometimes. So you can either do it through Burp Suite, right? Or you can literally just click on this, inspect, and it'll now show you the stuff that's happening behind the scenes. And then there's something right down here called the network that shows you what is actually gonna be done here. So if I do this one more time, right? So if I literally just go continue and run that, now there's something that shows up at the bottom here. And look at that. It's user login, email test, chat AI, password test, yada, yada, yada. So that's our actual full link, right? So this is what it will look like. You have the domain up until AI, that's the regular part of the domain, then includes, then this piece right here, which literally we just saw, right? And so in this particular case, it was under general, and it shows the full request URL. So wait, hold on, let me zoom out a little bit. And if I go here, and if I just do this, oops, it actually took me here, not what I was trying to do. But I mean, that's it. I just double clicked it, and this is the full URL. That's it. That's our full endpoint that we can now use to do some manipulative stuff. So how easy was that? How crazy is that? You literally just do right click, you go to inspect, and then you go to the network tab, and then you just resubmit the information, and now it gives you the freaking URL. That's crazy. Okay, here we go. So you don't even need Burp Suite for this, which is, it's scary. Like, some of these things are scary to think about. Anyways, moving on. So now that we have the endpoint, we can now open the terminal and execute this following command to use SQL map and do some funky things. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna open up the terminal, and we're gonna type in this command. So let me first copy the URL. Okay, and oops, let's open the terminal back up. All right, so here we go. All right, so very, very basic, very similar. In this particular case, I think they didn't actually use the version of the email with the special character at the end. So if you notice right here, it just says chatai.com and password, whereas in my version, it gives you the URL encoded piece of the what an apostrophe looks like, which is %27. So I'm just going to delete that %27 portion just to match everything that's going on earlier. But I feel like that should work anyways, but we're just going to delete that just to match. And so we have the test at chatai.com, and then at password, which is, for me, it's just test. They put 1, 2, 3. The rest of the command is what it is. So now we're just going to press enter. and everything should happen the same way here. Look at that. So testing, so on and so forth. And so we're just going to scroll all the way down and see what we get at the end of this. So it says the above command will exploit the SQL injection vulnerability as well as chain it to an arbitrary file upload attempt, which uploads a file stager into the root web directory that can be accessed by typing the domain name at port 80, so :80, and then this is the file into the browser. And then now we can see that we have a little uploader that we can actually upload some things into. And the malicious file allows us, or Bob, to gain initial access to the server. Now Bob has opened avenues of exploitation for him, as he can upload any file and execute it. He creates a simple PHP-based backdoor that will allow him to run any command on the server, and this is it. This is the PHP backdoor. So we're going to create one of these as well, and then we can upload it into the system, and we should get some kind of a result. So in this case, what is the response when we enter the apostrophe version of this? And so I think it was undefined, right? Yeah. And then execute who am I. What is the output that you receive? I see, actually, so there it is. This is where it goes. So you put it right after the file. So hack.php, which is the file that we uploaded. Once we upload that file, we can go to that URL and then attach the command itself via a question mark and then whatever the command is. So in this case, the command is dir, D-I-R, which lists all of the files that are inside the current directory that you're in, which is this particular directory, and it gives us all the files. So that's how we execute our command. And then is there a flag text inside of it? What's the flag value? How many files are available in this folder? And so very, very basic, easy set of commands that we're going to execute. So let's see, it looks like the back end database is MySQL. Do you want to skip the test payloads specific for other databases? Yeah, why not? And for the remaining, do you want to include all tests for MySQL? Yeah, why not? And not exploitable with null values. Do you want to try with a random integer value? Yes. Okay, I'm just going to wait until this thing finishes, and we're going to get our final task. So actually, while that is happening, I'm just going to create another terminal, and we're going to create our PHP code here. So we're going to do nano hack.php, create a file. Here we go. Okay, I think that's it. So PHP, if set, yada yada yada. I just like typing things out, but just to make sure that I did it right, I'm gonna see if I can just copy paste this on top of this. Oh, it is exactly the same thing. Yeah. So unfortunately, you literally can't do it the way that I thought you could. So we're just gonna erase it this way, and I think this thing in the background is still running. So let's see what else we need to do to make sure that it just completes what it completes. But for now, we have our script. So we're gonna close this out. And so if I do nano hack.php, I should have a script now. Nano hack.php. There it is. Okay, cool. So let's see. Do you want to keep testing others? The parameter email is vulnerable. Yes, test the other stuff too. This is pretty cool. The SQL map thing is pretty cool. It's literally mapping everything that has to do with that endpoint to tell us what all of the different vulnerabilities are. Payloads to, it is very important to not stress network connection during usage of time-based payloads. Do you want SQL map to optimize values for relay responses? Yes. I'm just going to keep saying yes to everything. Which web application language does the web server support? It's going to be PHP, or excuse me, number 4. There we go. And it says the backdoor has been successfully uploaded on this. calling OS shell to quit, type X or Q and press enter. So it seems like we have a shell already. So what if I do dir here? Yes. Huh. I'm already here? What? How is that possible? Okay, they ended up in the same place. The OS shell is where they actually ended up as well. So I'm in the right place. I wonder why we need to even do the other thing though. So who am I? It says NT authority system. So I wonder if that's it is the answer, isn't it? So NT authority system. That's exactly who we are. How we noticed the flag.txt in the web root directory. What is the flag value? So is there a flag.txt? There is a flag.txt. What is going on? I don't even need to do any of the other stuff. So cat flag.txt. Let me see if it shows. Oh, cat is not. Okay, so type flag.txt. There's the flag. What is happening? This should not be this easy. I feel like we were supposed to upload something else into it. But whatever. I mean, we're getting all the answers. So how many files are available in the XAMPP image folder? So let's go inside. This is the folder right here. So we are going to, since it is a Microsoft, as it seems, and none of the Linux commands work, so we're going to do cd xampp, and we're going to go inside of that thing. And then now that we're, oh, there's nothing in there, so dir. Okay, so I guess I can't go in there, so let's see, if I do dir and I do the exact string. So if I do dir, and we're going to do okay, that worked. So we just did dir, and we did the actual entire path right there. And there are 2 files in here. So I'm going to do 2, and that's it. I didn't even need to upload my script that I made. I'm kind of upset about that. I really wanted to upload the script. How did they even, what is happening here, bruh? Okay, whatever. Oh, you know what? I think this is what it is. Like, so, okay, this is what they found, right? So they found this actual file right here, which is the UKMPF, these things, these HP files right here. They found these files and they just went to one of those files and they found out that it's an upload directory. That's basically what it was. And instead of doing what we just did manually, they literally just freaking did it. Or maybe what's happening is that since we're using SQL map, it's actually uploading the file directly for us and we don't need to do it. So I didn't even need to create the file. I think that's exactly what happened. It literally says it right here. So it says it's going to exploit the vulnerability as well as chain it with an arbitrary file upload attempt, which uploads a file stager in the root web directory that can be accessed by doing this. So this file has already been created from what I gather. So you saw that I didn't upload anything. So let's actually go to this domain and see if it's already been uploaded for us, which I think that's exactly what happened. Instead of me having to upload anything, the SQL map did it for us, which is actually very convenient. So port 80, did I do port 80? Port 80, TMP, UKMFP, TMP, UKMFP, .php in the browser. Oh, no, it's not found. Okay, so I guess that didn't work. So never mind. Whatever, man. I mean, it worked now. I don't know. Gosh, what's happening? Okay, so maybe if I did this then. So let's see. Nope. So the issue seems to be that there is no path that is this path. That's the thing. I'm trying to find exactly what this path is, and there is no path like this. And that is the part that I'm kind of upset about, because I really want to find that upload page too, even though we don't need to, because we actually got access to everything and we were able to pull this off without doing that. I just want to be able to do it, and I don't know why I can't do it, and that's kind of upsetting to me. So let's find one more time. We're going to confirm this one more time. Okay, so that one didn't work. I think it's this one actually. So this particular one, that is the file stager. So the file stager is probably the link that we got to go to. And there it is. Oh, I feel so good about this now. Finally, I actually have it. So now that means I can go and upload my hack file and then upload that mofo. And now it has actually been uploaded, which means I can now run the freaking test. I uploaded it in the wrong place. Hold on, I'm gonna upload it in the root folder instead of uploading it in that. I'm gonna upload it here. Okay, file uploaded. So now what we can do, we should be able to just run hack.php $cmd equals who am I? And there it is. Yes. So all of the commands that we ran previously, we can now run here. And I am so freaking happy that I persisted and I figured it out. And all I had to do was read the instructions. So many things could have been, so much time could have been saved by me just reading some instructions. Okay, cool. We're done. We are officially done, and now we can figure it out. So which means that all of the other commands that I also ran, who am I, and opening of the flag text in the directory, and all of that stuff, it could have been done by just using our web shell right here. Not web shell, but I guess it technically is a web shell, but yeah, it could have all just been done through the URL, or it could have just been done through the command line, because it created a backdoor for us already, and we could just execute via OS query, which was inside of this, or OS shell, excuse me, which was inside of that. So anyways, we are done. We're finished. Now we can move on to the final task here. All right, now that we have seen how somebody can chain multiple vulnerabilities to exploit something, we need to do the other side, where we use scripting to make our lives a little bit easier. Without automation, a lot of this could be very time consuming, and obviously human error is a big deal, meaning that you can miss it, because you're imperfect. You're a human being. I am a human being. We're both imperfect, and it makes it a vulnerability when it comes down to analyzing for security. So a lot of different ways that we can do this is using scripts themselves, tools, platforms that do security orchestration, automation, and response, which is called SOAR systems. And these are systems that can kind of integrate with SIM systems like Splunk and things like that, that can make your life a little bit easier. So a script is a really good one, and this is one that I'm actually going to save for myself as well, that basically does a search through the system for any malicious keywords like shell, apt, SQL error, hack, all these things, and you can add more words to it. So this comment right here says that this is the list of the bad words, and you can add as many words to this as you want. And then the path itself is going to be errorlog.txt, which is the log that you want this script to search through. And then the file itself, it's going to open the path for the file, or it's going to open this file, which is the path that we assigned right here, and it's going to open it in read mode. And then while this FEOF, while the file is open, I want you to go through each line, and for each keyword as the keyword, I want you to go find it and then say that the malicious keyword has been found in this file, and basically notify me. So a very, very simple script that goes through whatever the file is that you assign here, and it searches for any of these words, and then it'll tell you if any of those words actually exist in your file. And that's basically the script. So very, very easy script to use. I'm going to use it, and it's something that I think you should also try to use. So I'm gonna do this for you. I'm gonna do this super slow, or you could literally just go and get into this room and get access to this, but I'll do this. I'm gonna do this for you just in case you want to take a little screenshot. So there's the script, and you can take a screenshot of that and then create your own little script, and this will search whatever computer you're on for these specific words for the file, yada yada yada. So there you go, that's the file for you, and you are very welcome. So now we can do scheduling tools, which is basically another way that you can automate something, which means that every time that you open the computer, this script will run and it'll check for vulnerabilities for you on the files that you have declared, which is, again, very, very useful. So at runtime or at specific times, you want this script to be ran just so it can see what's going on, and it'll make life easier. It'll make things happen faster. You can literally have it be done by the minute. You could have it run that script every single minute just to see what's going on, right? Cron jobs and Windows Task Scheduler. Cron jobs is something that's on Linux. Windows Task Scheduler is on Windows, as the name implies. They allow us to automate vulnerability scans, backups, software updates, and a lot of other things. And you can use a tool that does vulnerability scanning and automate the identifying and analyzing of vulnerabilities in the network, and it can scan the network regularly, detecting vulnerabilities that may have been introduced, and it can then generate reports that have been found for you. So literally you could just make this script or any kind of a script, and you can schedule it to run as frequently as you want. And within the script, you can also create a set of commands that will generate a file for you that will give you the report instead of you having to read it on the screen. And then you can just go check the most recent report, or you can write another script that reads the reports and it says, hey, this is a problem we just found, yada yada yada. So a very, very cool series of effects or attempts and automation that you can do. And then there's SOAR, which is just really freaking badass. Security orchestration, automation, and response are tools that have been generated to do all of this stuff for you with a couple of clicks and a couple of file uploads. They provide a centralized management interface for automating and orchestrating security tasks. They automate incident response, threat hunting, incident management tasks. Additionally, they can be used to integrate with other security tools such as firewalls, IDS, SIEMs, so on and so forth. Shuffler.io and Splunk are a few of the renowned SOAR platforms that you can explore. And these are just some things that you want to keep in mind when you're doing this. You want to test your scripts, obviously, in a controlled environment before you actually deploy them. You want to ensure that the scripts and automating tools are documented and easy to understand. Use logging and monitoring to keep track of the tasks. Review the automation and security checks regularly to ensure that they're still practical and relevant. And keep the scripts and automation tools updated and patched to address anything. So this is a course just by itself. Okay, they had one little task assigned to this, but automation of security is a course just by itself. We could probably do an entire freaking 5-hour video on this. So it is important to ensure that automated scripts are acquired from legitimate sources. Yeah. Okay, and there it is. We're done. We are officially done. If you found any use in this video, if you learned anything exciting, I want you to go to the subscribe button and click that subscribe button. Join our community. It would be awesome to have you. Something that I want to show you that was extremely humbling. Honestly, it was amazing to see, was when I went through our comment section and looked at look at this. This is pretty insane when you think about it. It just keeps going. There have been so many comments that come through here that some people just say thank you. Some people ask some real questions. Some people just notify me of the updates of their path when they're studying for their stuff. And it's turned into a really big community. Like, it's still going. Like, this is still going. So this is something that extremely humbling for me. I'm so happy to see that people are actually finding value from the channel and joining the community. So I would very much love it for you to actually join our community and just drop a hi in the comments, or if you have any questions, let me know. And I will definitely make sure to reply to you, because I reply to every single comment that comes in. And if it's a big question that's inside the comments, I'll go ahead and make a video from it. So it's still going. This is one of the most humbling experiences that I've gone through in my life. So I'm very, very happy to hear and to see that people are actually finding value from our channel, and it's growing the way that it is. So super happy, super happy, and would love to have you be a part of the community as well. So go ahead and smash that subscribe button, like the video, drop a comment if you have any questions, or if you just want to say hi. And yeah, I would love to see you. This is your boy Hank Hackerson at Hank Hacks Hackers, your favorite network and system attacker / protector. I hope you found this video useful. If no one else loves you, Hank loves you. Love, peace, and chicken grease. And I'll see you in the next video.